Hello and welcome to the We Are Makers podcast. We're Kate and Jack Lenny, a husband and wife team, sharing the stories of makers from around the world. We travel to the makers' workshops, studios and sheds to bring you honest conversations with the people behind the craft, right where the making happens. This podcast is an extension of our quarterly print magazine, our original project born in 2020 from a love of craft and the need to champion makers beyond the digital world. This podcast is a true labour of love, and if you enjoy what we do, there's a few ways in which you can support us. First, subscribe to our quarterly magazine. It's beautifully printed and delivered straight to your door every February, May, August and November, and it's what makes everything we do possible. You can also follow this podcast, leave a review, or if you fancy, buy us a coffee to help us going on those long travel days. Whether you're listening with a coffee in hand or busy making at your bench, let's dive into today's episode.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, so we're here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're here with Becca, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. I am originally from Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah.
But growing up, my dad was a chemical engineer and we moved around a lot. So I really never lived anywhere more than 4 years growing up. So
okay.
we lived Pennsylvania and then in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Texas, and for a small bit, we lived in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And so I was in first and second grade when we lived in the Netherlands, and my parents knew it was a special big deal for us to get to live abroad. So we spent a lot of time going to museums and historical sites. And so with all the Delft pottery there, that was my first really exposure to ceramics and pottery. And I have some journals that I kept in second grade. My teacher had us write for a few minutes every morning in our journals. And when I look back through the journals, they're all about wanting to grow up and be a painter.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cute.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that your teacher made you do that.
I know. And I'm not the type of person that ever kept a sketchbook or a bound object. So it's the only thing I have. I'm just kind of scatterbrained. So I just have piles of drawings and things like that. And so then I went to high school in Texas. We moved my freshman year of high school, and I always felt like a misfit and an outcast because I had moved from West Virginia to Texas, and it was culturally very different. Yeah. And just also that age is a tough time to move. And my high school art teacher, Mrs. Nimitz, was my safe place. Mm-hmm. And so I just ended up taking a ton of art classes, and she allowed us to eat lunch in her art room. Oh. And it was so I made a bunch of friends that were our whole friend group was just weird art kids.
It's not weird.
It's not weird. It's not, I mean, weird in a good way. I think it's a kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
And then so she encouraged me to apply to college at art schools, and she did a summer program for teachers at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Okay. So she pushed me to apply there, and I ended up going to SCAD, and I initially thought I would major in architecture because I wanted to please my parents, and I wanted to be an artist too, and it felt like a very career focused choice.
Yeah.
And then in the end I changed my mind, and I met the child of a furniture maker, Brad Smith. It was the furniture maker, Bradford Woodworking. And I interned for him making furniture and changed my major to furniture design. And I really through that internship apprenticeship with Brad Smith, fell in love with being a maker.
Yeah.
When I graduated, I also saw the real business side of what he was doing, and I knew I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, it's a good insight to
and I saw his balance. He was really running a lovely business, and he had some bread and butter, stools and chairs, and then he had one of a kind, very artful pieces beds and dressers that he was making for people. And I just and all the equipment. I was like, oh, this is a lot. And he's very smart businessman. So I knew I wasn't there yet. So I ended up getting an internship at Target.
Okay.
As a furniture design intern there, which was like totally different, like a corporate job versus this craft.
Yeah.
And then I think as I worked there, like my biggest fear was that I would like lose the part of me that was an artist. Like my biggest fear was like that I wouldn't have my own personal practice at home. And it ended up being a very cool job. I didn't stay in furniture design for long. I was like always sketching and doodling. And the dinnerware department was actually like, oh, do you want to, they were hiring me. Do you want to work for us and design dinnerware patterns and instead of making furniture? And I like lit up. That was the coolest thing ever. I was very attracted to print and pattern and surface design. And
it's a good transition.
It was a great, And so it was like, I was already living in Minneapolis and working at Target headquarters. So I took that job and it was great. And like, I really like, it was 2006. So not everything was digital then. So like I was like, I had paints and watercolors and a camera and I was like taking photos and painting and scanning and then photoshopping things together. And it was...
Feels like a different world then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not too long ago, really.
No. And I was like, everything was so hands-on, even though... And then I realized like, oh, this is like a big box retailer and a big company, but my team was 3 people. You know, it was so small. I mean, the whole design department was bigger, but like, it was a community and we all knew each other and supported each other. And it was a great time there, but I also got to the point... And I got to design other things, like I designed bedding and patio furniture, but I got to the point where like my time had come and I was ready to try something else. So I decided to apply to grad school for painting.
Okay.
And then in that process, I realized that like I didn't want to spend a lot of money on school.
Yeah.
So I got offered a job at a dinnerware manufacturer that made melamine dinnerware. And so I started working for them part-time. And it was remote. And I really, really loved that job. And I could travel because my boyfriend, who I'm still dating, is a conservation biologist.
Okay.
So he was doing seasonal studies on endangered reptiles and amphibians. So like I could go visit him and still work some hours, and I had a lot of flexibility with that job. And in like 2016, I think, I got laid off from that very unexpectedly. There was like a new person working at the company and we didn't get along. She actually told me at one point that like I couldn't draw, that I wasn't very creative. My artistic skills weren't good enough for the job. And
wow.
I really loved that job. So it was devastating. And
I imagine,
I like remember just like laying on my bathroom floor crying and being like, well, if I'm not creative and I can't draw and I don't have these, like, what can I even do with myself? And
it's crazy how one person says that to you and you're like, I believe it.
I believe it, yeah.
Which is terrible.
It's terrible. And I'm such a sensitive artist.
I would be sensitive too. I'd be like, okay, well, thanks. What do I do with myself now?
Yeah. So I started thinking like, what was it about that job that I really loved? And it was like, oh, I love tableware. I love dinnerware. I'm actually very interested in like the roots of it, how to make it, like going back to where I came from in the maker space and like how was all of this stuff made? I got to do like factory visits when I worked at Target, which were really cool, but I was more interested in like small scale.
Yeah, you've seen it the big scale.
Yeah.
You wanted it to not be big scale.
Yeah, totally. Like how do we... So I found pottery class here in Nashville at the Clay Lady campus, and I took like a 9-week course.
Yeah.
And I said to my teacher, I was like, I have to be here. Like I can't, 3 hours a week is not enough for me. I have to be here all the time. And so then I got a a studio there and kept taking class for a little while. And then the day that I moved into my studio at the Clay Lady was like, I found my home. Like, it was like I was safe again.
That's awesome.
Comfortable. Like, these were my people. It was sort of like this, similar to finding my art teacher in high school. And it was mostly women around me, but they, like, when I had questions, I always had someone there to answer my questions, to teach me something new. And I felt like because of that, I learned this new skill like very rapidly, because there was this whole community of support.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is that here?
That's here in Nashville. And that's like, so I've had my studio there until November of 2024. Okay. And then I have moved home since. But it just started, like, I started making, my sister was like, you got to put your stuff on Etsy. You know, I put my stuff on Etsy. My aunts and uncles and cousins bought stuff. And
it's always how it starts.
It's always how it starts. First,
Yeah.
you sell to your people, and then you sell to strangers, and then suddenly you have collectors. And it's... So then I did like a local craft show, the Tennessee Craft Fair, and they have like an emerging makers tent. Okay. And I did that, and I won Best Emerging Maker.
That's cool.
Which was very validating. And so then I sort of... I really jumped in head first. I started like committing to building my Instagram following and having sales more regularly. Eventually, I moved off of Etsy onto my own website.
Good move.
Yeah. And then all that time, I have to say, I wasn't like... So I had lost that other job, but I wasn't making money off of pottery. I was freelancing for other companies that I had reached out to. So I was still designing some dinnerware and doing other product design things. But eventually, by the time 2020, like the pandemic came around, I was like almost fully supporting myself from my pottery sales.
That's cool. And
really reduced the amount of freelancing that I was doing. And it's very cool. And I mean, honestly, like a dream, because things were selling out like as fast as I could make them. And, you know.
You do drops now. How long have you been doing that sort of? Because I feel like that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of naturally happened because like you unload a kiln and you're like, okay, now I got to put all this online. Yeah. And then, I mean, I've probably been doing that format since 2018 or something.
Okay.
Because things were selling out in like minutes.
How does that feel? Like, how does that feel?
It's like, it's overwhelming. I used to like almost have a panic attack every time I did a drop, because people would say like how many minutes did it take before it sold out this time? And I'd be like, oh, like I want to be humble, and I want to be like, I just know I got lucky, and it's not always going to be like that, you know? And then whenever it stopped selling out so quickly, people would be like, how many minutes did it take? And I would be like, well, there's still like a third of the work for sale.
Yeah.
So go buy something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt, and I also felt like very untenable. Like I was working as hard as I could and making as much work as I could. And it wasn't enough. Like I felt truly like I wasn't enough because I wasn't making enough. And I would get like mean comments and emails from people that didn't get to purchase the thing that
Seems to be a common thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's just the indoctrination of the Amazon Prime world that we live in, though, isn't it?
I think
the fact
so.
that things come next day and that there's 20 million of them in stock, that's not how the world's always been.
No.
It's far from it. If you needed a gate or if you need a latch for your door, the local blacksmith, it might take them 2 weeks to get around to it, and then it might take 3 days to do a simple latch. Like, that's just the way the world is. We're just completely indoctrinated. So yes, you're right, it seems to be common.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And I think it's probably why most of us makers and creatives, it's certainly why we do it, like try and raise awareness of makers and creatives. Makers and creatives like it when makers and creatives buy from them.
Yeah.
Because they just get it.
They get it, totally.
And it's important to say as well, that's not to say that you were saying a job would take 4 weeks and it would take 6 weeks. That's very different. You were releasing product and people were saying there's not enough product. Mm-hmm. No, there is enough product, because this is the amount of product I could make within the hours I've set to make it.
Yeah.
This is how long product takes to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I hope it's going to become less common.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's very common to just hear oh, well, you sold out. You need to make more. It's not the way it works.
I only have 2 hands.
Yeah, it depends. And then I got a lot of pressure. Like, then the pressure was like, oh my gosh, you have sort of everyone's business dream. Like, you're making a product that everyone wants.
Yeah.
What a good problem to have. Well, it's a good problem if you want growth and you're interested in ramping up your production and doing things differently. I like doing things small, and I wasn't interested in that sort of growth, and I wasn't interested in like having employees, managing people. One of the reasons I left the corporate job is because the career path is away from design and more into management of people.
Yes.
And while I like the parts of my job that are like photographing work and listing it online, I also like touching every piece, inspecting things, putting it in a box. Like, I like all the parts of the process, and I wasn't prepared to give anything up for the sake of growth.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The inverse is still a worse problem to have, though.
Yeah.
Like, having a making problem, not a selling problem, is still good.
It's still good. Totally.
It's very good.
Yeah.
The world seems to be, and I do hope it's changing, the world seems to be like, oh, well, if you're selling out, you need to make... Have you heard the fable of the Mexican fisherman?
No, tell me.
Right, you'll like this one. Mexican fisherman's pulling his boat out on the shore. It's like maybe 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. There's loads of renditions of this story. This is the one I like. Maybe 10, 11, 12 o'clock. American businessman on holiday walks past him and goes, oh, what you doing? Oh, well, I've caught a couple of fish for the day. I'm going to go back, cook fish, hang out with the family, maybe read a book, have a nap. Oh, well, if you've caught this many fish by 12, you could go back out there for 4 hours. You could go back out there for 6 hours. Why would I do that? Because then you could grow, you could make more money. What would I do with more money? Buy more ships. What would you do with more ships? Grow more, make more money, employ people. What would I do with all that? Well, eventually you could retire. You could pull your boat onto shore at 11 or 12 o'clock. You could go and hang out with the family, cook some fish and take a nap.
Exactly.
It's like, that's what I'm doing.
Exactly.
Like, we don't have to do the whole
Yeah.
bit in between to get to there.
And just to know, like, when you have enough, And I'm surely I've made some mistakes in there, like, I was full-time making pottery, and now I'm doing freelance again because I wasn't making enough money, and I maybe let it go too slow or too far away from focusing on income. And it's all just like a balance and figuring it out and being ready to like change when you need to make a change, I think. But my partner, Patrick, is a biologist, and he just like lives a slower life, and he just has been such a great example for like chasing what you're really after, which is
so true.
And it's also important to say, like, if you are after the growth,
you should get it.
Go and get it. Like,
absolutely.
My side of the business for We Are Makers, because of the mission to share more maker stories, is wholly after the growth.
Yeah.
That is my side of the business.
Yeah.
I'm maybe just introspective enough to see that the other side of running a business is very, very, very viable.
Yeah, totally. And like we were just talking about my friend Cynthia that runs Sunhouse Craft in Berea, Kentucky, and she's like a great example of like she's grown her business to the point where she's able to hire people and give people like a really cool job and be a really cool boss and support her local economy in that way. And then I think about like the Clay Lady and the Clay Lady campus here in Nashville, and she's like a clay supplier and has classes and studios, and that is the community that brought me up and like built what I have. And we need people that are willing to grow and like take on the risks and responsibilities of running a business like that, because it's not easy, and it really adds to the community in ways, I don't think I have that business savvy, and that's just part of me.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, both options are valid and complete.
Yeah, totally,
Right?
totally.
And that is what it is. That's the whole attraction, and what we try and get certainly across to younger people that are considering craft as a career.
Yeah, it takes all kinds, right?
It takes all kinds, and actually
need all kinds.
different kinds. Exactly, you need all kinds for it to be a a whole well-rounded craft world, you need all kinds. You need the people that are going to, look at bringing in machinery and doing things in a slightly more mechanised manner. Going back to the blacksmiths, like Coal Iron Forge wouldn't exist if it wasn't for blacksmiths that wanted to be semi-production run and do 20 hammers a week rather than 3.
Yeah.
Both of those are very valid things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So where are you today? Like, what's happening?
What's happening?
Because you've moved back home from which is quite a big step, coming back to your home in a smaller space, I'd imagine. Or
It's actually bigger.
Is it bigger space? Okay.
Right, okay.
But like a smaller kiln and less people. I'm an introvert and I enjoy being sort of alone and uninterrupted in my production. But what's really happened is that I I needed to do a bunch of repairs on my house. My roof was leaking and just life.
Household
problems. Some family members had some health issues that took me away from work. And I had a few friends come to me with some freelance opportunities. And I was like, this is good money. I can't pass it up. And it's also the opportunity to learn something else. I love learning. So I was like, I'll try something new, learn something new. So I started freelancing more and I just found that I was like renting a space that I wasn't working in.
Yeah.
And that community is so strong and supportive that like there's wait lists for spaces there. And I just felt like it was the right thing to do to let someone else have that opportunity and take a step back. And I'm still making and producing from home. Just like smaller quantities than I was before, with always hopes to like get as much time up here as possible. But it comes and goes like depending on like also the freelance is very unpredictable. Sometimes I work a lot and sometimes I don't work for like 3 weeks. So it's like nice that I can sell some pottery and like have a income whenever that stuff's slow. So it's just all about finding balance there.
It's a balance because I guess a freelance is on your computer, right?
It is.
So you've got that sort of computer work and the craft.
Yes, totally.
So you're getting a bit of both.
Yeah. I know. I went actually to the clay lady yesterday to buy supplies, and I'm like talking to all my friends that have studios there, and we're talking about 3D printing for mold making because I like to make a lot of molds of my own, and I was like, it's such a cool technique. I just can't see myself spending any more time on a computer. Like the whole point of me being in the studio is not being near a screen. So like, I really think that's a interesting method. And I'm like, it's just not for me right now because I don't want any more screen time, but.
The screen time's a big one.
Yeah.
Being able to step away and use your hands for more than just typing.
Yeah.
And your eyes don't hurt as much.
Screen times, we spend too much time on the screen.
Far too much.
When we're not on the road.
Far too much. Well, it's either a windscreen or a computer screen, right?
A windscreen or a computer screen,
It's one of the two. Does it suit you, doing both?
For now, it does. I like making without the pressure of making the thing that I know is going to sell. Like right now, I'm going to make a plate for my mom to hang on her wall. And like, that's something that I would have just said no to before. Like she would have asked me for something and I would have said like, I can't, these people are mad at me because I'm selling out and I don't have enough product. I don't have time to make something for you. And then now I'm like, I definitely want to do that and I'm excited about it. And
I guess that's important, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need those little projects that you want to do, not always because you have to do it.
Right.
You also need to understand that it doesn't matter if they're mad at you for selling out.
Yeah.
That's not a you problem.
That's their problem, not yours.
That's a them problem.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah.
But we always feel that pressure of, sometimes we have it where like you feel like you're beholden to, people and do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Because ultimately, none of our businesses would be here if we didn't have customers.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the big thing, right? You do need the customers.
Yeah, you need the customers. You want to keep them happy, and you're so grateful for them. Like,
oh, absolutely.
My gratitude is just like. So then, when they're upset with me, I'm like, well, don't go away forever. Come back, try again.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
You don't want to end up someone 3, 4, 5 drops. They've missed it. They'll arguably never come back, right?
Yeah. I think that happens. I'm sure it does.
Is your customers like worldwide, or are they just local? What's your customer base like?
It is worldwide. It's mostly, I'd say it's like 90% in the US.
Okay.
But a lot of it is not local to Tennessee because I only did like 2 or 3 craft fairs locally before I really took it all online. And then like Instagram blew up and I was like, well, I gotta sell online and I don't have time for local craft fairs. So I've always thought, like, now that things are slowing down, I'm like, maybe I should apply to some things locally and sort of broaden my network here. But I mean, I sell a lot. A lot of people keep stats, like I sell in these states and this, but
We were talking about it the other day, stats. Like how do you track your stats? Like
You
what
can
you're
spend
looking at.
You can spend more time tracking stats than actually making progress,
Yeah.
is my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
Kind of, but yeah, I ship everywhere. Sometimes I'm, addressing things and I'm like, wow, South Dakota, really? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then also there's a lot of customers and I'm so grateful for that have turned into collectors.
Yeah, you
And then you
mentioned.
see their names over and over again supporting you. And that is like the most heartwarming, lovely thing to see people's names show up time and time again, that they like what they got and they're coming back for more. It's the best.
What's nice about that? What is it that makes you really appreciate that when someone becomes a collector?
I think you put, especially when you're selling online, you put the best photos and the best work into the world, and but you don't know, like, when they get it, is it what they expected? We've all bought something online and we get it and it's
true.
not what we thought it was going to be. So like, it makes me feel good that when they got it, they were like happy and it was like I was selling it properly and it was what they expected and they came back for more. That's part of it. I find like there are things that I would sell in person at a craft fair that like the glaze has a small bubble or a pinhole or something that I would sell online at a discount, but I'm like, it's not really a flaw. It's like,
No.
it's so picky.
Yeah.
It's just handmade. But if you're selling it in person, then you're like, you can understand when you can look at that person and
You're holding the real
hold it
thing,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh, you know what you're getting. You like it. But to buy it online, I feel like everything, like the quality of everything you sell online has to be top notch
Yeah.
and communicated properly. So yeah. And that someone like bought something, they lived with it, they used it in their life, and then they decided they wanted more, or they were going to gift it to someone they love, or, all that's just such a flattering compliment.
And I can see behind you some of your products. Like, what is your range of products? Because it looks like there's quite a few up there.
Yeah. I got into mold making and slip casting, and I have like this huge collection of vintage glass bottles. So like, there's some bottles that I've made molds of that are casts of vintage
clever.
things.
That's interesting.
And then, yeah, they're like, I don't know.
Oh, they're cute.
Yeah. And then...
That's lovely. I've never seen someone do that before, like slip casting a mold off of something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you like the form.
I like the form, yeah. And you've been in my house, so you can see that we have a lot of like thrifted antiques stuff. So we just are collectors of knickknacks, and so
Cool knickknacks.
Start looking around the house, and you're like, well, I can make that into porcelain, or I can make that into porcelain. So that I went through a huge phase with that, and then I've cups and mugs and tableware and a lot of trays, but I make everything's so...
It's your trays that like stood out to me on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, they are cool.
And I started making everything that's like comes with a wire and a hook on it, so it's ready to hang on the wall, because everything is so decorative that you could just...
That's quite a European thing, isn't it? Like with Delft pottery being hung on the wall.
Do you want people to hang it on the wall or to be
rats.
used?
I think think both. Like in my dream world, like you're having a dinner party and you're like pulling the platter off the wall to use.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
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 It's probably quite safe storage for it if it's on
That's
the
what
wall.
I think,
rather
too,
than stacked
right?
up and getting chipped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And they
true.
need cleaned every once in a while, so you take it down, you use it, put it back clean. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a nice concept in that of just being proud of the things you own and
Hang it up.
displaying them. Mm-hmm. Like, as humans, we do buy a lot of rubbish
Yeah.
on the
do.
whole. If you're buying things that you wanted to display as well as use, like, is there a bigger thought experiment there of
Yeah.
what you buy, because it's on full display, right? It's not just in a cupboard.
Well, everything that we buy that's handmade, like, I don't want to put it in a cupboard.
No.
Yeah.
I want to put it somewhere nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the creative scene like in Nashville? We've seen a few makers previously in Nashville, but like, there's got to be more makers.
Oh, there's a ton. There's
Yeah.
so many like potters in general at the studio. There's so many people making pottery, and it's such like a supportive, close-knit community. Like I feel like everyone wants everyone else to be successful. I feel that vibe. I don't know. I was once told like potters, we work in mud, and so we're like all just naturally very grounded people. But
I like that.
I feel that the community is really powerful and supportive. And then other crafts, I mean, there's an organization called Tennessee Craft, and we have a twice a year craft fair,
Okay.
and it's amazing. And
What time of year is that on?
there's a spring and a fall. So like the spring one just happened because it's like
Oh.
right before Mother's Day.
I miss it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's like there's twice a year, there's Porter Flea, which is like right down the street in my neighborhood. I go to that every year, and they have some local artists, but then also like regional. But I find there's so many makers, and it's such a supportive community. And yeah, I think I should do more craft shows so that I can be even more connected to it now that I'm.
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something nice about physically meeting people.
Totally.
I mean, I never had the best experience when I was making with markets. I always felt like I put so much effort into it and not much return. But when you look at it, sometimes you do need to go out into the public and like, hi, I'm here.
Yeah, it's not trackable return, isn't it? You don't know
Well,
if that
no.
person's coming back and logging on to your next drop, or
Right.
like how do you validate whether that's worth it or not?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Instagram, that you've kind of, you're not doing as much on Instagram anymore. Like, why? Because it's a love-hate relationship, I guess. With
It's
a
a
lot of
love-hate,
people.
and the algorithm coming and going, that's fine. Sometimes you get more attention, sometimes you get less, sometimes your content is better, and sometimes it's, you're just putting something there to fill the void. That doesn't bother me as much as that, like, I see that it can be unhealthy for people's mental health, and I'm struggling with my contribution to that.
Okay.
And also like my own relationship with the app and like how it affects my mental health. So I'm just trying to be like, I can see it so many ways. Like I can see the following and the community that I built for myself, and like the people that support me and all the good that it's brought into my life. And then I can see how people use it to compare themselves to others and
Yep.
think that they're not enough. And I never want to make anyone feel that way, or like they don't belong, or like, yeah. I think if you're out there making anything, art in any way, like keep doing it. That's a good use of your time, being creative. And then I also see like people just arguing and fighting and being mean to each other and bullying each other, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't it's just like nothing, it just feels like nothing ever got solved in the comment section of and so and it it can be polarizing, like people becoming extreme in so many ways. And honestly, like, I think everyone, like, yeah, I miss the days of like vacation photos and pretty art. And I get that, like, we can't ignore the problems of the world, and we can't, like, it's not a good vibes only time right now.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Yeah, so the balance is maybe a little bit off somewhere.
the balance is off. And then I don't know how to,
You can't fix it.
I can't fix it. And
No.
I'm not the one that's going to fix it. And
No.
it's not my job to fix it. And then I'm like, well, how do I interact with this space that I don't understand or I don't think is right? So, like, that's where I'm struggling.
So you're right, you can't fix it, but you can curate it.
You can. Yeah.
Like I probably spend more time, certainly some days, not every day. I'm certainly not saintly in that manner, but more time blocking accounts and getting rid of accounts. And they're certainly not accounts that like attack us or have attacked me. It's just stuff I don't want to see.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like not blocked because they're bad. It's just blocked because they're not for me right now.
Yeah, because the algorithm,
true.
whatever that looks
Yeah.
like, is pushing me stuff that, and you're just trying to teach your version of the algorithm what you do or don't want to see.
Right.
Because it is such a powerful tool, Instagram and
There's
the
a
likes.
maker in edition 14, Isabella, who had shared in her story that she tends to not follow people who are in her field. She prefers to follow others who are in a different field so that she doesn't, like, she's inspired by other things and there's no that, like, oh, they're better than me or they're, you know.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting because I never had thought like that before of, like, makers can, you know, you don't always have to follow the same sort of craft. It can be completely different.
Yeah.
And you might find that
Something.
helps.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. That's interesting. And
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so you don't always have to follow other ceramicists or potters, or it could be something completely different. I don't know, like metalwork. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be inspired by something.
Yeah, I
you
love
know?
quilters and I love, like fiber artists.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried any other crafts before? Or has it always just been?
I've sewn, I've done some sewing, woodworking, I love to cook and garden. I feel like it's all a creative outlet. Yeah.
I think we're all
totally.
just creative in different
Please
ways.
send note. Please
Oh, yeah.
send note.
The broom maker.
The broom maker at Berea.
Yeah.
I forget her name. I'm terrible with names. I'm actually also
Amanda.
getting worse. Amanda. The other day was saying, like, she summarised it very well. Creatives just want to be more involved with their life.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do anything, whether it's cooking, whether it's, building a shed outside, whether it doesn't matter. You just want to be involved. You don't
My
want life to
hand's
just
dirty.
Yeah, you just don't want life to kind of pass by you, do you? I think that's maybe the ruling or the guiding principle, isn't it, for what is a maker? Just someone that really wants to be involved with their life. It's maybe something worth pursuing more. Write a Substack about that.
I know. Do you involve yourself with anything other than Instagram? Do you have any other outlets like Substack, email?
Currently no, but I started getting into Substack, like reading people's Substacks, but I have never fancied myself a writer.
We're not a writer by any means.
But I love it.
But I'm kind of like, maybe this is my next big adventure, is like figuring out how to express myself in writing. I also feel like as an artist and a maker, like if you can't describe what you're doing or, explain yourself, then it's a worthwhile task. It used to be like, oh, you have to write your artist statement. Bio was like pulling my teeth out, the worst.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, what a interesting exercise to try to explain why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm interested in Substack, and it feels like it's a much more positive space, and it's like really easy to kind of curate what you're feeding yourself. So
Yeah, we've kind of come to really like it.
Yeah, we've been recommended it for a long time. We've also got another newsletter on Beehive, which is just maker stories. So like when this podcast goes out, it just goes out to the 17, 18, 19,000 people, whatever that looks like. So we've got all that, but then we kind of just wanted this space for us to, for a start, not build a website, not build a blog, just write about what's
What's happening?
taking us from
what
that day.
our thoughts are, what we've been up to, rather
And something that's more literally just what our thoughts are, rather than
It doesn't
this
have to be curated.
curated, copy edited. Like, it can be a bit rough around the edges. There will be spelling mistakes. If you find a spelling mistake, it's probably me that's written it, right? Not
Hey,
okay,
I'm the queen of typos.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? It's sound. So, but the more I've been, I don't know if I want to say this live. You might need to cut it out. It feels like the people on Substack, on the whole, a bit more intelligent.
Yeah. It's
So glad you agreed with that.
I get what you're saying though, because like if you're,
That's not to say people on Instagram are unintelligent.
No.
It's the whole. It's the mass.
it's like because I think if you're into Substack, you're into reading and writing.
Yeah, right.
So like reading is such an important part of
Knowledge transfer.
and learning, and like I really do love learning. I think that's why I love craft and why I love pottery, is because it's like you're never gonna know it all, and then so you're just like looking for more ways to get more information and learn things. And I think that Substack has that vibe for me, where people are like trying to.
I've been trying to read it like the last 2 months, and it feels like it's more education over entertainment.
Yeah.
Because
Education.
Instagram's very much become entertainment. Mm-hmm.
You're trying to fight that sort of, I have to show up to be an
Yeah.
entertainer, whereas
Yeah.
Substack, I like the vibe on Substack. And I feel like I want to write something for Substack.
That's interesting.
And when I go to Instagram, I'm like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Substack's the way forward.
I think Instagram, like, we've treated Instagram as a notice board and nothing
Yeah.
more. Because it's fantastic for that. Like, a very quick snippet of,
Yeah.
this is what we've got going on. If you want to check it out further. And that's really been our
Yeah.
strategy. As if it was a strategy, as if it was planned. It wasn't planned. Even like this trip, just like posting pictures.
Yeah.
Like, this is who we're seeing today.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. I like that. That's interesting, because my relationship with Substack is just in the past like 2 months becoming
We're the same. Like, we've just been absorbing it and more people recommending it, and then it was the Lost Arts Press. Chris at the Lost Arts Press was like, no, I think you should do it. Like, I think you should write a Substack.
Yeah, and they make their wages from their
Their
because subscribers
their wage bill's covered by Substack.
wow.
And I think there's the other thing about it, isn't there? Like, the clientele that are on Substack, if they're coming to a platform to pay for something, they're just a bit more invested. Like,
Totally.
doom scrolling's not a thing. It's not set up in a doom scroll matter. Well, not yet. It might all change, but who knows?
Yeah.
These things always do.
Yeah, it's always changing. I think that's like, just to be doing this in the world is like, you have to be willing to change, and you have to be like ready to pivot to the next thing when it arrives. So
It'd be really interesting to see, because you've got a really good following and, dedicated fans. It'd be interesting to see how many of them would pick up a Substack.
yeah.
Or an email newsletter, or whatever that ends up looking like, whether you build it out on Beehive or like, we're big fans of the Beehive
Yeah.
thing. But that's a very different thing. Substack feels more like a social media type newsletter.
like people are already there.
Yeah.
It could
Be interesting.
Could be your next thing.
Could be. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
Something on
can
the
have that one
side
for
that you
free.
can just enjoy writing whenever you feel like writing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like your journal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like your
Go
new
back to
journal.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about that. Like, it could just be our journal.
Could. Remember Live Journal? Are you guys too young for that?
Live journal?
Live
What's
journal?
that?
Live Journal was like in the early 2000s, like a blog format that was, it was just like Blogspot, but there was one called Live Journal, and people were,
Never heard of
early,
it.
Right, okay.
the early days.
So just like a blog.
Yeah, just like a blog, but it was very much like people on Live Journal were journaling, like it was their daily journal. It was very vulnerable.
I was going to say, and that's public. That's pretty Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? Well,
Yeah. It was
Let me
very
tell
much
you.
like that.
I
Yeah.
wonder if anyone ever Control F tried to find their name written in someone else's live journal, right?
Oh, I'm sure there was a lot of that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good way to start a few arguments.
It was like MySpace days. That's when Live Journal was.
MySpace days. We were just off the back of that, really, weren't we?
yeah,
Yeah.
Bebo and all the rest of social media.
How it's all changed.
I know.
What's next?
What's next? I am maybe like the worst goal setter, planner
You're not the only one.
People are always like when I worked corporate, you know, you had to like do your annual review, write your 5-year plan, and that is just like not. It's never gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. I'm very reserved to that. Like, it's not gonna be what I think it's gonna be, but I am always like open heart, open mind to the next thing. That's sort of how I've always approached my life, and like nothing like the freelance I'm doing right now. It's like I didn't seek it out. It found me. I love it. I'm so grateful for it, and I feel like my life is gonna keep going that way. My partner's job is sort of in a volatile space right now. So like that's change on the horizon, and I don't know what that's going to bring. So
Any more work coming up soon?
I am like at the beginning of a making cycle, and I hope, you know, like the end of June that I'll have work online again. And then I'm sure like basically by the time it's summer, it's like already time to be making for holiday stuff. So, you know, I hope that I am ramping up production in the studio, and I have, my work used to be very like blue and white Delft inspired from that part of my background. And like, it's becoming more and more colorful these days.
Yeah.
And I like just on a micro level, I'm like interested in more color.
Nice, I like about color.
Tableware. I want to focus on tableware. I want to focus on color. I want to do some like make some new molds for other tableware items, but that's it. Yeah.
Sounds good though.
How do you set aside time for that creativity? It's very easy for people to get stuck in the trap of, well, this sells, I'm going to make more of these, and very quickly they become producers, not makers. Mm-hmm. You've obviously set aside time to push into colour, to trial that, to trial molds. Like, none of these are quick things that you can trial quickly, are they?
That's true. I like the idea of like setting aside one day a week or a half a day a week and like dedicating time and space to it. That way, like in 2018, when I wanted to like grow my Instagram, I set aside like, I was like, this is how many hours a week I'm going to commit to photography for this, or and then I've done that with mold making and learning that skill. I've been like, okay, well, I can spend, that is a big mess when you do mold making. So it had to be a whole day, but then, I just like to like dedicate time to it.
It almost sounds like a plan.
Plan. It is a plan. They're just like not
5 years.
I'll plan this week or this month, but I'm not planning this year or this 5 years. That's way too far. Yeah.
I think that's pretty valid though. Like, we do everything on a quarterly plan. Yeah, we've got some bigger goals. We only do it quarterly because we release quarterly. So it's
you can gauge what's
our
working.
VAT return for our taxes, our quarterly magazine, and our goals all tend to. It's just easy, right? It just makes it simple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess with no plan, like you're really not going to have anything cohesive. It's just a bunch of scatter. Yeah. So I guess in that sense.
And I'm sure there's some artists and makers that can get away with that, and craft people, because they're just so well known. Mm-hmm. They just like, I don't know, turn to doing something.
Today I'm going to make
different.
this, and this is you know, what I'm going to do today.
Yeah. But I do like, okay, so I'll make a bunch of wet work, and I paint on wet work. So I'll fill all these damp boxes, which is just like a Tupperware with plaster in the bottom and a top. And I'll just fill up the damp boxes with wet work. And then like as I'm go through my week and I'm freelancing and then I have like a couple of hours, I'll just run up here and I'll paint like 2 pieces.
Nice.
And then I'll put, you know, the lid back on the damp box, and then I can come up after dinner and paint something. And then as far as like when I'm painting, sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to paint a bunny today. Or like I look out my window, my neighbor has chickens. So like I'm always painting the chickens out the window because they're there. And, but a lot of times I just like, I have no idea, and I just sit down and then it happens.
Quite a nice way to work, I think.
It is. I love it. That is the beauty of like the balance of the freelance and the making, is that it just comes and goes and there's not a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah, they're both very creative though, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not just like admin work and then, you know, good.
Is there a world where you see yourself going back to the making more full time, or are you quite happy just floating between the two?
I'm happy floating right now, but I can see, in 2 years being back to full-time making or something. Yeah, I can see it changing.
What do you think would need to happen for that to happen?
I think I would just have to feel like financially I could make it work, and also feel like I think there's just like some other stressors in my life. Like there was over the winter health issues in my family and other things where like it just to like be creative and run a business, I didn't feel like I had the wherewithal to deal with that stress, like in addition to other stress in my life.
That's fair.
And so I think if I felt like probably supported a little, or which I do have a lot of support, so that I don't want that to be
No,
but I just I don't know, like I talked about how like the moments in my life that I was like the most creative and the most productive, I felt very safe. Like when I got my first studio at the Clay Lady, and when I found my high school art teacher, like those were very safe places, and I don't know that I feel that right now.
Okay.
So when that it will come back. Like things come and things go, and it just like whenever.
Yeah, everything's in
life.
cycles, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So like this season will pass, and there will be something else for me.
Yeah, life is in seasons.
Yes.
You just need to make sure you keep that audience warm,
Yeah.
so that when you do decide to go back,
Yeah.
they're there, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's
Totally.
one of the biggest crimes in the making and creative space is when people, and because I get it, like being creative 24/7, 365, like that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And I see people build these amazing audiences, and they just dwindle out to nothing.
I mean, I've had that conversation with friends where, especially like in the fall, where I'm like, I built this thing. Am I really gonna let it go? Like I worked so hard and was so dedicated to building this, and it was so much work. And am I really just gonna walk away from it? And I was like, I can't. I have to maintain it in some way. And
It's almost I don't want to say minimal effort, because I know you're not the kind of person to put in minimal effort, but what is the maximum leverage for the least amount just to keep that warm while you're deciding?
Yeah, and to find my joy in it again. I think that like if I can find that space, then it will. Yeah.
Maybe writing might help.
I know. I think it's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's advice yet, because we're only just starting that journey,
But
but
like, worth trying, right?
It's worth trying.
yeah, quite.
Oh, man.
I've got one more question.
Sure.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh. I think that it's okay to fail, and like don't put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect. I think that the lessons, I think it's a common thing you hear people tell young people now is like, if you're not failing, you're not learning. But I didn't know that. I really didn't know that when I was younger, and I wanted to be so perfect, and I didn't realize like the amount of time it takes to build a skill. Mm-hmm. And that like the first time you do something, it's probably gonna fail.
Mm-hmm. I do think that conversation is coming up a lot at the moment. Like, it's okay to fail. I do think it's coming up too much by people that don't really mean it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like it seems to be like the trendy podcast conversation at the moment. Like, it's okay to fail. You need to fail X times to do this, and but like that gives you a little blanket of comfort over failure. But what does it actually mean to fail, and what do you actually get from it? Is the bigger thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I fully agree with you. By the way, like it is okay to fail. Like, we've had this conversation a lot. I've failed loads of things, and they certainly don't get to me in the same way they get to you. Usually because I'm trying to charge into the next thing by the time I've realised I've failed the first thing. So, but like, what does that conversation actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of plaster I've thrown away because it leaked all over the floor, the amount, that kind of stuff where you're like, oh, you gotta do that. Those things, it's like burning your dinner. It's like the money lost, like when the kiln fire is wrong, and it's, I think potters, we fail a lot. I mean, I think that's what pottery has taught me. over other crafts. I think it has a higher rate of failure.
It also has that really bad rate of failure where it all goes in lovely. And you
Yeah,
just
totally.
fold until you've taken it out.
Yeah.
See, whenever potters post that, my guts wrench.
Just have to thought of doing it again.
Because it can be lots, like it can be whole fires
Oh
gone.
yeah. Oh yeah. It can be huge.
You're like,
It's
yeah,
a whole lot at one
yeah.
time. I've lost many things, and I don't think that, like, some people really do a good job of sharing that publicly, but I'm always like, I should share because people need to know I failed. But then I'm like, I don't want to dwell in it either.
Yeah.
I hear that. It's a
Ready to
balance
move
of
on.
what do you share and what do you not share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, hey,
Yeah,
look,
thank you so much for chatting to us.
inviting us in.
Yeah. Thanks
I'm
for
excited
coming
to
over.
pop back in a couple of years' time and see where it's gone.
See what's happened.
See how your Substack's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I look forward to reading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, thank you.
Lovely, thanks so much.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it, pal.
having me.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If it made you smile today or feel inspired, hit follow, leave us a review, or share it with a fellow maker. It really means the world. If you'd like to support what we do even more, you can subscribe to our quarterly print magazine, where you'll find even more maker stories in every edition. We'd also like to share that we're working on the We Are Makers grant. Once we reach 2,500 magazine subscribers, we'll be giving 11% of all our subscriptions directly to makers to help fund tools, travel, photo shoots, or anything that moves their craft forward. Find the link to all of this in our show notes. We'll see you soon, wherever the next story takes us.